you agree with me that back home, when you enter somebody's house in the typical Ghanaian setting, you would have to be offered water by the owner of the house. In much the same way in Nigeria, I'm told you will be offered cola. And there is a popular adage to that. They say, he who brings cola brings life. So today we're going to receive cola from our host. And on that note, may I invite our host, the Vice Chancellor, Professor Shirley Condon, to give us her remarks. Thank you. Let's welcome Prof with a round of applause.
Well, good morning, everybody. Good morning. Can you hear me? Yes. It's a real pleasure and delight to be able to welcome you to the University of Bradford. I know many of you are already working here or students here and friends of the university, but for some people, maybe it's the first time you've been here, so a very big welcome. I'd like to give my thanks as well to our Lord Mayor's Councillor Abigail Marshall-Katung and our Lord Mayor of Bradford, Bev, who's a very, very good friend of the university and spends a lot of time with us. So Councillor Beverly Mullaney, welcome again. Honoured guests and leaders, you are all leaders in this room, every single one of you, and the thing that the University of Bradford cares about is our vision. And our vision really, I hope, encapsulates what matters. So our vision is a world of equality and opportunity. A world of, where people want to, but more importantly, can make a difference. And people can only make a difference if they're afforded the opportunity that allows them to make that difference that they feel is right, proper, ethically. Now that means that people need access to all of the things that we know that we've had the privilege of: education, sustenance, whether it's water or cola. I'm sure water's more healthy. Whether it's an odd Guinness, which I know is quite popular in certain parts of Africa. But we need the things that allow us to have that strength and resilience to engage with a passion. And that passion has got to be long-lasting, because the things that we need for sustainable development in Africa and across the world need people to be engaged constantly. When you get up on a morning, when you think about the day, you've got to be able to have that resilience. And I had an experience a few weeks ago. Does anybody know the hotel, the Leonardo's Hotel, just over the road? So I was there getting some breakfast. There was an African lady singing, getting a toast, and I went, wow, you're really happy. She said, no, I'm not happy. I think I've told this story before. I'm full of joy. I'm full of joy. Right? And I thought, wow, that's amazing. She's full of joy. And it reminds me now that as well as resilience, we need that joy in our life, and we need to be able to see, where does the joy come from? And sometimes that joy is like really small, isn't it? It might be that cola. It might be the Guinness. It might be a whiskey. It might be water. It might be knowing that the crops are, whatever it is, we've got to get that joy around for everybody. So this event is really important to us, important to me, because as Ngobo said, we care about this sustainable development. We want sustainable development to be embedded in everything we do, as well as our equality and diversity, because they go together. You can't have sustainable development without a fundamental intertwining of that focus on equality and diversity. So it's a pleasure to welcome you all here, and it's a pleasure that we will be having with us very soon His Royal Majesty Asajifo Amatio Okyenhene Pani. And hopefully he will feel the joy of Bradford when he gets here and has the chance to speak to you. So I just want to extend my very best wishes to you all. I'd like to thank the Dean of the Faculty, Ngobo, the Head of Department, and Professor Richard. No, I didn't get it right. No, for helping to organise this and make sure that the University of Bradford is connected. So on that note, have a great morning and enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vice-Chancellor Shali. Thank you so much. And I've learned something. As Africans, we should learn to engage. We should learn to engage. That's one thing that I've, taken from you today. Thank you. Thank you so much. We have our dearest Lord Mayor of Bradford, Councillor Beverly Maloney, here in the building. Let me just, tell you something sweet about this amazing lady, before, she, dashes out. Councillor Maloney was born at St. Luke's Hospital in Bradford. She was educated at Rodsway School and later at Shipley College, where she attained a diploma in early years education and in management. She became an elected member of council in 2016, representing the Thornton and Alderton ward. Councillor Maloney has worked in her community for over 40 years, starting her career as a volunteer at Barnardo's, and she has sat on several boards. Bradford Regeneration, Lee Top Family Centre, Cafe West, Lower Grange, and Saffron Dean Community Association, to name a few. Councillor Maloney established Child's Play Neighbourhood Nursery in 1997 and a youth group, Dreamcatchers, in 2020. She still, supports parents groups and training for over 700 young people in early years and childcare, helping them to achieve their goals. Councillor Beverly Maloney is married to Tom Maloney and has 5 children and 10 grandchildren. Oh, isn't she blessed? She enjoys being an early years practitioner and pioneer, having visited early years settings in many countries, including Finland, Australia, and America, and has acted as a mentor to help other improve quality within their settings. Councillor Beverly Maloney enjoys travel and socializing with family and friends. Let's welcome Lord Mayor of Bradford, Beverly Maloney. Good to see you.
Thank you so much, everybody, and I feel really honoured and privileged to be invited to this event today. I'm so glad Hugh is not arrived yet because I was having difficulty pronouncing his name. So, Your Royal Highness, when he gets here, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to have been invited to join you this morning and to offer a very warm welcome to you all of the people of the Bradford district. This is an exciting and innovative research seminar exploring how traditional leadership can be integrated with modern governance to achieve sustainable development, and I am very delighted that it is being hosted here in Bradford through the good offices of our outstanding University School of Management. The flourishing and deepening bonds between Ghana and the UK are, of course, a source of great mutual pride. One of the important benefits of days such as today is the further strengthening and reinvigorating of these vital links. Our two countries enjoy an excellent working relationship with our bond of mutual respect and long friendship. The participation of such distinguished and influential guests amplify and illustrates the high degree of importance which is being placed on exploring further our connections and many of the fruitful possibilities at this event. I shall close simply by saying that I hope that all today's delegates thoroughly enjoy the varied and thought-provoking programme in front of you. Together with the networking that events such as this invariably generate, I hope you will seize upon every opportunity to advance your thinking and learning on how the important issues of traditional leadership and sustainable development can grow together. The furtherance of a safe and more productive environment embedded within and nurtured by the rich and fertile soil of African culture. I wish all your endeavours every possible success. So once again, thank you very much indeed.
Distinguished guests, participants, friends, and colleagues, good morning. It's my pleasure and delight to be standing here and presenting myself as Dean of the School of Management. The School of Management has a long history. It is, in fact, the oldest school in the UK. It's not one of them. It is the oldest school. It was established in 1963. And the other two oldest schools are London Business School, which was established in 1964, and Manchester Business School, which was established in 1965. So the history is very rich, and the work that we do is very much in line with the theme of this particular conference. Our research is in line with the US Sustainable Development Goals. And what is important for us to understand, as Ngobo has explained, that environment is related to water, to the land that we own, and the resources that we consume. And the governance research in particular is looking into aspects, how to look into those resources in a way which is sustainable for not only this generation, but for future generations. So if you look into the contributions that we are making in whatever way, whether we talk about stock markets, we talk about governance, whether we talk about leadership, whether we talk about different ways of management strategies, the end outcome is related to the consumption and production of those resources. Now, what to produce and how much we produce is the question that we are looking into. The more we produce, the more will be the impact on the environment, and most of the time, negative impact. And if you think about the way things are produced, say, for example, in agriculture, once the demand is higher, different ways are generated to produce more. But very few people are looking into the impact of fertilizer on human health. So once fertilizers are used, the natural impact is disappeared. And a number of diseases that we see these days are associated with the use of fertilizers for production. Just one example. Then we look into things in different forms, and then relate it to what the theme of the conference is, the role of traditional leadership in sustainable development goals, say, for example. That's what we are trying to talk about. How much has traditional leaders done? What shall we do as researchers to help those leaders to understand what is needed from them? Right? They know it, but until now, it is not done the way which is good for the planet and the environment in particular. So, the message from us as researchers need to go through platforms like this. And your role here, whether you are an academic, you are a researcher, you are from the private sector, you are from the industry, is about sustainability. So different factors are associated with sustainability, but the important thing is making a decision today, right, will have an impact on our future generations. So sustainable is a word which is used where we care about future generations. At the same time, we think about us as the current generation. So by the time we ignore future generations, the world will go into difficulties. So what we will try to gain from this particular forum, we want you to interact. We want you to talk about. We want you to document what your thinking is. And we want you to pass that particular message to the leaders in Africa in particular. And it will happen, right? People will understand because we don't have another option. Now, even in my generations, the amount of clothing we will have, 2, then we were just grown, 3, and then 4, and even me, I like suits, and I don't know how many suits I have, the number. So I'm saying, being a researcher, I need to be taking care of it, but I don't. So this awareness needs to be starting from someone, right? And who will be doing that for us? No one else, we. And sometimes we talk about, say, for example, what will happen if I don't do this? Yeah, because many other people are doing it. Think about yourself. If I can do something which can help the environment, then naturally other people will be thinking about it. So, from the school side, the school support is always available for events like this. And there are a number of, right? A number of, I'm not using the word several, a number of world leaders, fantastic researchers, people that I know that I have worked with, who can contribute to this, who will be passing that message from the finding that we have to the concerned authorities who can act on it, are no other people than you. So you have a significant job in hand. If you care about sustainability and sustainable development, these are the forums that you need to learn from. You need to contribute to. You need to debate. You need to challenge the participants. And then pass that message to the concerned. How to do that? You can work in local media in Africa. You can inform individuals working in media. Social media is in place where messages are passed like light, so quickly. So the overall theme from here that we can generate would be alert. Get alert. Think. Think about the world. Make this universe a better place. And Africa is a significant component of this universe. The amount of resources that you have, right? Why are people interested in Africa? Because of the resources that you hold, right? How are they extracting those resources as compared to other parts of the world is different. And in Gomez just provided you one example. The same thing happened in 2 different countries. One was here and one was in Africa. And the protocol followed was different in the 2 regions. And we need to work for equal treatment, for equality, diversity, inclusion, in a way which is sustainable. And no one else will be coming You are the people who will be doing it. And no one is better than you, by the way. That's what I am saying. That's what I feel. So my message to you, learn from here. Explore further. Debate it. Right? The researchers who will be talking to you today, challenge them. Criticize them. Talk to them. And take this message to the people in your region. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I think we've been given the energy now to attack our leaders, to bombard them, to engage, also with them, with all, serious questions. And I think today we are going to engage Nana intellectually.
Your Majesty, Nananom, representatives from the High Commission, university leadership, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, you are very much welcome. It is an honor for me to introduce His Majesty to all of you this morning. His Majesty, I think we all know him, has been very active in terms of sustainability, and he's a voice known around the world. And that is one of the reasons why we thought it fit to have him here to speak to us about how leadership can drive and contribute to sustainable development. So His Majesty, Osajifo Nana Amotia Oforipani, is the 35th occupant of the Oforipani stool, one of the most influential and revered traditional leadership positions in Ghana and Africa. As the king of the Achim Abuakwa Kingdom, His Majesty holds a prominent role, not only as a custodian of rich cultural heritage and traditions, but also as a progressive leader with deep commitment to sustainable development, environmental conservation, and social justice. Since ascending the throne in 1999, His Majesty has championed numerous causes aimed at improving the lives of his people and ensuring sustainable development within and beyond his community to the rest of the country, Ghana, and also the rest of Africa. His vision for a modern and prosperous Achim Abuakwa kingdom is deeply rooted in the preservation of traditional values, coupled with an openness to innovation and progress. His Majesty's promotion and campaign to save and conserve the environment has been enormous. This has led to the establishment of the Ochiman Environmental Foundation to manage environmental concerns in his kingdom. The foundation, in turn, has launched several programs to promote education and greater awareness of environmental issues in his area. One such program is the posting of billboards all around the community, emphasizing the importance of conserving rivers and other natural resources of water supply, and also conservation of our forest reserves, as well as refraining from burning trees. Osajifo has a great interest in the proper health care of his people as well. This is even more so in the prevention and care of HIV/AIDS, not just only in his kingdom, but in the country and across the continent. He has set up a number of programs to educate people on the need to protect themselves and also to engender understanding and compassion for the affected people. The program also aims to encourage moral and social responsibility within the family and community as a whole. His Majesty, on a personal level, has also run in several marathons to help increase the awareness of HIV/AIDS issues and has been instrumental in encouraging people to undergo voluntary tests by publicly undergoing a test himself. His Majesty has also set up the Okyenhene AIDS Foundation to manage and coordinate work in this important area. In terms of public service, His Majesty is the chairman of the Environmental Protection Agency of Ghana, and the agency is dedicated to continuously improving and conserving the country's natural and human resources. His Majesty's vision is to promote popular co-management and protection to enhance the country's environment, as well as seek common local and international partnerships in achieving the set goals of the agency. He is also the chairman of the Forest Plantation Development Fund Board and chairman of the Ghana Society for the Blind. In the area of health, His Majesty, the Okyenhene, is a strong advocate for proper healthcare management. In his presentation at his coronation, he emphasized the importance of health issues. Again, at the 40th anniversary celebrations of St. Dominic's Hospital in Akwatia, Osajifo outlined clearly his interest in the development of the health sector for his people. As part of his health policy concerns, His Majesty has established the Okyenhene AIDS Foundation to manage education against the spread of HIV/AIDS. He is a champion of poverty eradication initiatives in his kingdom as well as in Ghana. He is a fervent advocate for the poor and the physically handicapped. He's a passionate supporter of Free Wheelchair Mission, a non-profit charitable organization headquartered in Santa Ana in the United States of America. And the organization has supported many disabled people, about 31,000 people across 37 countries around the world, from Angola in Africa to Mexico, with the provision of wheelchairs. Through His Majesty's advocacy, 40 organizations throughout the world help Free Wheelchair Missions find potential recipients. In June 2003, as part of a working visit to the United Kingdom, His Majesty met with Prince Charles at St. James Palace in London. And during the meeting, which lasted for almost an hour, His Majesty accepted the Prince's offer to team up with him to tackle some of the problems confronting the youth. Such problems such as poverty, illiteracy, drug abuse, and HIV/AIDS, and the promotion of organic agriculture. His Majesty's meeting with Mohammed El-Ashri, the chairman of the Global Environmental Facility of the World Bank, realized the facility's contribution of an amount of $848,000 towards a total cost of $81,477,000 to enhance biodiversity conservation, and sustainable use of renewable natural resources in his kingdom through community-based integrated natural resource management approaches. Under the co-patronage of His Majesty, the former South African president and Nobel Peace Prize winner, Nelson Mandela, and Her Majesty Queen Noor of Jordan, the IUCN World Past Congress was held in Durban, South Africa, where His Majesty presented an incredibly well-received policy paper on guidance, which led to an agreement for commitments and policy guidance for protected areas worldwide. The Okyenhene was also invited as a special guest by President Bush as a guest of honor. The Congressional Award is a public-private partnership created by Congress to promote and recognize achievement, initiatives, and service in Americans' youth. The Congressional Award provides a unique opportunity for young people to set and achieve personally challenging goals that build character and foster community service, personal development, and citizenship. Today, we are honored to have in our midst His Majesty, a distinguished leader, a visionary, and a passionate advocate for sustainable development. He joins us to share his insights on how traditional leadership can be harnessed to achieve sustainable development, a goal that is at the core of global development efforts today. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my greatest honor and privilege to present to you our keynote speaker of today and guest of honor, His Royal Majesty Osagyefo Amotia Oforipani, the King of the Achim Abuakwa Kingdom. Do appellation. Okay. Please be seated.
Nananom, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Okyenhene is the title of the tribal king of Achim Abuakwa, Ochimai, an old traditional kingdom in the eastern region of Ghana. Your Majesty, Osagyefo Nana Amotia Oforipani II, you ascended the throne on October 4th, 1999, making you the 35th occupant of the stool of Achim Abuakwa State, which was established by Ata Okyenhene Kwaframwa Wonyia Wonyi in 1362. Your Majesty, this year marks your 25 years on the throne, and the people of Achim Abuakwa State and Ghana celebrates you for your achievements as a beacon of sustainable leadership, restoring social order and public peace, recognizing the importance of education. Your commitment extends beyond basic education. You founded the University College of Agriculture, Environment and Science at Bonsu in the Eastern region. Climate change advocate you are, that you are not just noted and rooted in tradition, but forward-thinking, actively combating climate change and global warming. Your Majesty, Osajefo Nana Amoatia Oforipinin II, Okyenhene, you are also referred to as the Kwabibrim Hene, as your traditional territory is an area of dense forest. Hence, as part of your 25-year celebration, you have committed yourself to planting 1 million trees, an initiative which is applauded by everyone. Again, Your Majesty, or the Okyenhene, you are considered the head of the Asuna clan, and therefore known as Asuna PSA. At this point, I humbly invite you, His Royal Majesty, Osajefo Nana Amoatia Oforipinin II, Okyenhene of Achim Ebuakwa State, Kwabibremo Hene, Asuna PSA, Nana Kasa, 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 na Edom Etio.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction. Our distinguished chair for today's occasion, Prof. Richard Noah, Head of International Business Marketing and Strategy at this great university. And Nanum gathered here today. Esteemed faculty members, the vibrant Ghanaian community here in Bradford and Leeds, students, distinguished guests. It's an honor to be here, and I bring you greetings from the people of Achim. We're going to begin by having this conversation and telling about a little history. History informs us that Africa is the cradle of human civilization and the richest continent on the face of the earth. There is not another continent blessed with such abundance and diversity. And yet, that same continent is the poorest. Not only are we poor, but poverty finds its headquarters in that continent. It's become our neighbor for quite a while. That neighbor looks like it's not going anywhere. Sometimes I even think that maybe they have a freehold status. But this particular conversation about sustainable development is about SDGs, but more importantly, it's about poverty. When you mention Africa, it invokes images of emaciated bodies, dying children with faces covered by flies, mothers whose thin babies suck at empty breasts, men stripped of their dignity, unable to find work to take care of themselves and their families. At the end of it, man, what we've done is we are talking about symptoms of poverty. That's how a lot of people describe poverty, the symptoms. But there's a source of poverty, which people don't know. A continent that's so rich, how could it be so poor? There's a little history to it. Over 500 years ago, the civilized West Europeans tore up young men and women from their villages packed them up in wretched slave ships, and sold them into slavery. They planted colonial flags and sucked the economic blood out of the continent and looted massive natural resources. They peddled lethal weapons, used peoples and nations as pawns in deadly real-life games. That is when poverty was born in Africa. And the story of Africa has remained so. And that's why it brings us here to talk. But let me just tell you, nobody can afford to ignore their history or their culture. Neither can they afford to be chained to it. History preserves continuity, reminds us of those who came before us, their struggles, their suffering, and their sacrifices. The challenge that Africa faces in achieving the SDGs, as with other developing nations in our world, is compounded. The residual but consequential COVID-19. History can become a negative factor when it blinds people to the ongoing journey necessary for the process of change. We can honor our history without becoming enslaved by it. In other words, we can change. We don't have to remain here, but we remember our history. One philosopher said, Soren Kierkegaard said, life is best understood backwards and is lived forwards. In other words, every now and then, we need to cast a retrospective glance at our past and see how our forebears lived. But we also have to have the cognizance of all that has happened today. We cannot make any more excuses. We need to change the narrative about overall state of African economy. As a traditional leader, we have found a unique role in mobilizing our people, advocating for sustainable practices, and leading by example. Notwithstanding the challenges that the established political order press to authority in terms of its resource constraint, the last 25 years has seen significant social, environmental, and economic progress in our kingdom. We have made efforts to restore environmental sanity through a determined intervention to plant more trees. The Okyenhene Environment Foundation, established by my outfit, has supervised the planting of over 5 million trees in our kingdom through several initiatives with the World Bank and the United Nations, with the support of other local environmental organizations and the government of Ghana. We have provided alternative livelihoods to our communities and fostered ecotourism programs that have contributed to a promising socioeconomic return for my people. The success of the OEF has received commendation from credible institutions across the world, including the House of Commons, which honored the foundation with the prestigious Green Apple Award by 2003. To further consolidate these efforts, we established in the year 2006 the University College of Agriculture and Environmental Studies. It is the first university in Africa solely funded and funded by a traditional authority dedicated to the agricultural and environmental conservation. Our strive in conservation has caught the attention of many world-renowned advocates among heads of state who were nominated by then Prince, now King, to serve on the African Advisory Council for the Prince's Rainforest Project. Yours truly, myself, was the only traditional leader appointed by King Charles III. Mr. Chairman, our influence extends deeply into the social fabric of our communities, making us indispensable partners in the pursuit of sustainable development. Traditional leaders have the duty, authority, and respect needed to mobilize the community for collective action to positively transform the communities. Ladies and gentlemen, the SDG has gone on since 2015. It is evident that overall progress on the SDGs has been much slower than desired, and our world is not on track to achieve many of the goals. The situation is even more acute when we look, for the instance, at where Africa stands, leaving the fate of millions of Africans and the fate of our planet in dire straits. Members of the faculty, guests, students, the SDGs has 169 targets and 17 goals. They will talk about hunger, talk about health, talk about education. All of them fall under the big umbrella of poverty. I am to speak to you on the role of traditional leaders in achieving sustainable development in Africa. But most of it will be dwelling on poverty. I stand here this morning, Mr. Chair, wearing this royal garment, looking different. I may come from a different background. We may eat different food. We may have a different culture, speak a different language. And while we may be divided by political and geographical boundaries, the world knows now that we are united by one ecological system. COVID, unfortunately, is one example that reminds us of how interconnected and interdependent nations and people are. So we'll delude ourselves to think that a problem that may emanate from my little town, Chebi, will not have some consequence here in Bradford. We have shut down distances, we have broken barriers. The world, as large as it is, has gotten very small. And so somebody, according to some reports, may have COVID in China. When it started, somebody in Chebi can be affected. We know what COVID did. It changed our lives. COVID stopped us from shaking hands. COVID stopped us from eating in restaurants with friends and family. We couldn't hug each other anymore. We couldn't even go to the gym. And the thing about COVID didn't know first world and third world. It didn't know who was rich or poor. The most sophisticated medical centers in the world, the richest economies in the world, COVID hit them. And to the moment, if you think about it, think what how humanity has been able to accomplish, how rich we've been. We've been to the moon. Some people take vacations on the weekend to go to space. You wonder how this little virus unseen by the naked eye, can throw the world upside down like this. It tells us about some power that money cannot fight. It is called the power of nature. Our forebears understood that nature was so powerful that they respected and defended nature. We come around, we humans of today come around and try to dominate and destroy everything around us for our consumption. Consumerism is the prevailing definition of a good life. To claim this idea, we set out to disrespect other species and to steal and cheat. In our attempt to reclaim the good life, we continue to abuse and disrespect nature and people. You know, there are some people who see no value in a tree unless they cut it for timber. But our forebears understood trees were their sacred heritage beyond price. They are not sat in the environmental science classroom, but they knew that trees had different functions, including storing carbon dioxide for our breathing. There are some who have no value until they enter, some who have no value for animals until they enter the slaughterhouse for someone else's dinner and some tools and clothing. There are some who would just cut plants, one variety of another, before we can even discover the life-saving features they may hold. Most of our medicines on which our life depend come from the humble plants in our tropical forests, and scientists are endlessly searching for more. Has it occurred to you that we humans are the only exception to all God's creation? The difference between us, Homo sapiens sapiens, and all the other species on the face of the earth is our humans, the function of our mind, our humans' ability to think and think creatively. So we can do more with our minds. But unfortunately, we are thinking about material worth. In our democratic system today and in this younger culture, the rule of law prevails. When that law is broken, law enforcement will find you and punish you. Long before the younger culture came into being, there was a rule our forebears lived under. It's called the rule of nature. God's rule. That one has to live in harmony with one's environment and not dominate and destroy it. Our forebears understood that and saw the earth as a sacred place. They respected and defended that rule. When the Europeans arrived, our forebears didn't want to share the European ideas about land ownership. When that happened, they were considered primitive. And because they did not want to share or desire to place the source of their survival into the stream of commerce, they were viewed as ignorant. And because their value system was based on relationship and not currency, they were believed to lack the capacity to live civilized life. This was the thinking of Europeans. In other words, they considered indigenous people's life as inferior. But our forebears were so proud to live that life. The challenges that Africa faces in achieving the SDGs, as with developing nations in our world, is compounded by these challenges: climate change, conflict, the residual but controversial and consequential effects of COVID-19, the global cost of living crisis, poverty failures, misgovernance, a pear-shaped global governance architecture, and unfair global financial systems, and a yawning deficit in financing to propel implementation of the goals. Climate change is accelerating with great force, decimating food systems, worsening economic inequalities, with the deleterious impact felt all across the globe. And yet, only a fraction of the funds that world leaders pledge to contribute to the combat is being released. We know what is wrong, but we cannot fight it. In fact, we cannot fight it not because we don't have the political will. We cannot fight it because the arrangement is wrong. Before you can even fight these world leaders, you're already begging them in other areas. You've asked the IMF to come to your aid, what they call bailout packages. The World Bank gives you some pernicious World Bank loans. You ask them to come and support your elections. Every major industry in Africa is owned by somebody else. I don't know about you, but you cannot beg a man and fight him at the same time. Let me just clear this. Let me stress on this with a quotation attributed to my grandfather, Fred the I, who reigned from 1912 to 1943 and was perhaps the most prominent traditional ruler when our country was a British colony called the Gold Coast. This is what he said: "I conceive that land belongs to a vast family of whom many are dead, a few are living, and countless hosts are still unborn." This is not our property alone. We're on borrowed land. And then we have to be the trustees of the future of our next generation. The rule of nature bounds that we hold this in trust for our future children and their children. The title of my speech is Sustainable Leadership in Traditional Governance. It just didn't happen in 2015 in Paris. This thing had gone through Rio, Brazil, 1992. It came around to Kyoto, made a move to Johannesburg, went to other places before we got to Paris. Do you really think that if world leaders really wanted to curb and eradicate poverty, they would have done it? If that's what they wanted to do, they could. They have the resources and know-how to do it. But we're still here. We're here because the Europeans are interested in keeping Africa poor. Every relationship has changed. In 10 years, in 20 years, in 40 years. But the relationship between Africa and Europe hasn't changed because they are much interested in us being impoverished. We should learn to change. There's a life support system that is for every human being. The food we eat, the water we drink, and the air we breathe. The food we eat is under siege. You know, when populations were growing, the agrochemical companies started spreading pesticides on farmlands to grow more food. And when people eat that food, they get sick. They give us the pesticides in the hope that we can grow more. And then when we eat it, we get sick. The pharmaceutical companies are making the chemicals to grow the food, and when we get sick, they make medicines to cure us. Both ways, they're making money. Until a woman came up and warned the world, Rachel Carson, said that every lettuce that comes to your dining table has some toxic chemical in them. You know, when that woman came out with her book, Silent Spring 1963, the pharmaceutical companies went at her and said all kinds of things that she didn't know what she was talking about. But that was the truth. We get sick and we die. And so money, the interest is just to grow the GDP and for corporate profits and for increasing the value of shareholders. Nothing else matters. And that's the world we live in. There was a time that when we get sick, one shot of penicillin will kill you. Why Africans, we don't want to change, I don't know why. And then the bacteria that penicillin is supposed to kill found a way to dodge the penicillin. They resisted antibiotics. And every time we can't get the antibiotics to cure the disease, they make more potent antibiotics. And bacteria still find a way to resist it. Those of you who are in biology may know it is called MRSA, this bad bug called methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus. They don't stay around here. They go to the hospitals. When you're sick, they go there and bother you. The point I'm trying to make is if bacteria can find a place so uncomfortable and change, what about us humans? We need to change. Africa needs to change. Leadership should realize that we need change. You know, we cannot longer make an excuse about how the white folks have treated us. We understood their major. The idea was to come and exploit us. They had a goal. They came and did what they had to do. Until we came around and said, look, enough is enough. We were tired of you cheating us. Now, around the 1950s, African elite told the white folks to get out of town. They said, Adam Clark, you go tell the Queen that enough is enough. We got this. We, the African educated elite, we got this one. Enough of tyranny, enough of pain, enough of taking us as subhumans. We are going to control our destiny. That's what we said. A few years later, we found that we had just gotten rid of European tyranny just to be replaced by African native tyranny. But we got to make sure that it's not the same. There are few countries that have made impressive strides in their socioeconomic development. They did it because they believed in the rule of law and the decency of man. They did it because their leadership came to serve and not to be served. They did that because they were selfless. And most importantly, they did that because they loved their country. Because of that, these countries have nothing. They are not more than we have. But they continuously progress because of ideas and knowledge. Again, we have to understand that we cannot continue this life without contribution from our women. Oppression of women is the oldest oppression in the world. But it's also true that in communities where women are participating in development, and communities where women are respected, where women are educated, that communities thrive. It thrives because, one, women educated know how many children they want to have and with whom. And most of the time, their children are educated. And so maybe we'll be wise enough to make inclusion of our women in our development agenda. Nobody has even stopped to ask what is the meaning of sustainable development. The UN describes it as development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the future generations' ability to meet their own needs. Development that meets the needs of our present. We've met our needs. He said, but then we have to not compromise the future generations' ability to meet their own needs. In other words, we cannot squander and mortgage our children's future. It also means enabling people to reach a point where they can continue the development process without outside help. Right here on this campus, I know there are students here who can match anybody in their studies. Back home, in African nations, we have human resources that could be applicable anywhere. And yet, we find ourselves called underdeveloped. It gets to a point where we no longer have to worry about what the other man think about us. What do we think about ourselves? What do we think about ourselves? We've been labeled corrupt nation. And yes, there may be a lot of truth in that. But I tell the world leaders that they ought to help us curb that corruption. If I went to the bank tomorrow and deposited 15,000 pounds, the teller would take it to the manager and I'll be called. Said, His Majesty, you can't come here and put 15,000 deposit. You need to explain where you got your money from. That's the law here in America. So why do the world leaders allow African leaders to come with $450 million and deposit in their banks and turn around and call us corrupt? They come here and purchase high real estate with the people's money. And little people like those who in my kingdom cannot stop it. So if you're going to call me names and you think it's stopping us from developing, please, if you're going to help us, help us. We cannot continue every day to talk about there's hope. Hope will only come when we leaders would like to help to come. We have the history that we can live and contain and be better for ourselves. So let's do it. We also understand that for us to graduate and to develop education and infrastructure are big. We'd have heavy, massive investment in education. And here I'm proud to say that our current president, when he came on and brought us free SHS, an ambitious social intervention. I applaud it. What is said in the novel said, poverty cannot be a bar to learning. In fact, learning can provide an escape to poverty. So if we want our country to grow from kindergarten to secondary school, everybody gets that free. And the president said that no matter how much it's going to cost, we need to do that. In most advanced countries, the attraction and management of intellectual capital will determine who makes it and who not. In 1957-58, this may be news to you, there were only 8,000 secondary school graduates in Africa south of the Sahara. Half of them came from Nigeria and Ghana. 8,000. We've come a long ways. So we don't lack human resource. We lack the will of our leadership to make us full. We can go on, but it comes from the heart if we want to change the plight of Africa. So, sustainable development goals is a phrase that is so beautiful, but it's not working for us. I mean, it's been too long, it's not working for us. Yet, there's a statement again that was made in Ghana by this president, Ghana Beyond Aid. It's meant to propel us into a frame of mind that will quicken our pace of development. It's meant to change our mindset from one of dependency and living on handouts to one of achieving our destiny and shaping our future. It will make us economically and politically independent, and above all, give us the respect and the dignity we deserve. Give us the respect and the dignity we deserve. The system of centrality of governance is outdated. We don't need to have everything centered in one place. Decentralization must be the order of the day. Leadership matters. Those who are Christians and read the Bible. In Mark 10, 43-45, Jesus admonishes us to serve if we want to be leaders. Whoever wants to be great must become a servant. Whoever wants to be first among you must be your slave. That is what the Son of Man has done. He came to serve and not be served, and then to give away his life in exchange for the many who are held hostage. Service is the price we're going to pay for the space we occupy. There's power in humility. You can serve in humility. You can serve and leave your mark. Future generations will look at your work and build monuments in your name. We are all intoxicated with material worth, as if things are going away or going out of style. If we continue our insatiable quest to enlarge our GDPs and increase shareholders' value and build big corporate profits, we won't be able to develop as we want. The time is now, and humans must change our way of life. It's long overdue. Some of our actions have brought us untold consequences. But with strong leadership, we can repair some of these damages over time. And with the right policies, we can regain the respect of nature. Scientists have warned that we're heading toward a place where we can all perish. We have an arduous task in our hands. Shift emphasis towards net negative emission using methods like carbon capture and storage is the only option. If the greenhouse emissions rate continues this way, it will not only take science to predict that by 2040, the air we breathe will contain 50 plus of carbon, and that's deadly. Before I take my seat, we have to take care of our children. Now, children enter into this world innocent, defenseless, trusting that we will take care of them. And then when you read that 9 out of 10 children die before age 5 in the world, and most of them come from Africa, there's something wrong. Or when you read that people at primary school today in Africa will catch up with the people in North America and Europe, it has to take 159 years. You know we got a whole lot of work to do. I believe that no matter what we do, the geography of birth should not deny a child quality education. The place you're born should not deny you health care. The place you're born should not deny you housing. We have made rural Africa the place of poverty, and it has to change. I just conclude by saying that when nature strikes, we are helpless. It's time for us to put our own future on hold and start thinking about the future of our children, their children. Bringing change that is lasting, at the same time protecting our precious natural resources. Right here in this camp and everywhere else, I tell students that I was once a Boy Scout. Nothing made me who I am than the Boy Scout motto of be prepared. I urge you to prepare for anything that you do. It's a key to life. You have to prepare for the exam. You have to prepare for the interview. You have to prepare for the marriage. And sometimes you have to prepare to die. And great parents do buy the insurance and pay the premium and get the coverage just in case. So I urge you this afternoon that be prepared. As it is, the saying goes that there's going to be a light at the end of the tunnel. There may not be a light, but you cannot curse the darkness. Just light up a candle and take your step one after the other. And who knows, by the time it's done, the light may show up. And when that light shows up, you'll be prepared. You'll be prepared to take on the opportunities that the world offers to you. The opportunity that this university will give you. Don't lose hope. There's some light coming at the end of the tunnel. Professor, I thank you. I had to first apologize for the lateness. You know, when you travel from Africa and you come here, you can't have an excuse. You can't say that there was too much traffic, so you didn't get here. But I have to commend you for the great work that you guys have done here. And as I travel from London to Bradford, I told my PA, I wish I could make the same trip from Accra to Kumasi. And these are the things that we need to emulate when we go back home, to make sure we build not for ourselves, but for our future generations. I thank you for having
Earlier on, Professor Said Akbal had challenged us, and His Majesty the King has given us a food for thought. A program being a forum, we want to give you the opportunity, be it a question or a contribution, so that our granddad, who is present here with us, would assist us. We don't want you to leave this place unsatisfied. So we give you the opportunity to do so. Because time is on our side, we would take as few as possible. So without much ado, I throw the ball in your court. Thank you very much. Nana will be coming round with a microphone, and if you have any contribution or question, this is the time to do so.
Thank you so much, my co-MC. I have my own questions myself. Nana, thank you so much for the beautiful speech. And I am one of your, daughters, because having been raised in Okyenhene, yes, and also to know that I've met my own alumnus, because I happen to know that I also attended the same primary school that you did attend. And that school has, shaped both of us. And so I've got fond memories when we talk about GCD, to be precise, because that's where I was, raised. And, to see that the big company that raised, the likes of you and I is no longer. I just want to ask, what has, transpired in your estimation? And two, what do you think, can be done to revive, GCD that can, bring so much, benefits to the town? And also, I've got one from the Okyenhene mine, here as well. They want to find out whether we have environmental protection laws. And if so, how are we enforcing them to ensure that our environment is not destroyed, polluted, with such unbridled impunity and complete lack of care for the environment, our health, threats to future clean potable water, supply challenges, deforestation, food scarcity, and more. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll take two more, and then we'll give His Majesty the chance to. Yeah.
Nana, Yedase. Nana, thank you for your wisdom. I'm filled with so much joy and pride that we have leaders like you. And I think my first comment is we just need visibility of people like you. We've heard so much how corrupt our leaders are. And we have gems like you who gives us hope. So thank you very much. My question is not relating to the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. It's one very important one that is not on the list, and that is the brain drain from Africa. How do we retain talent in Africa and not just think about the West being best? It's a bit hypocritical of me because I've been in the UK for over 40 years, and I must admit I haven't done very much with Ghana. But it's time for us, it's time for Africa, and it's time for those of us who've traveled to contribute to the sustainability of wisdom, whatever, in Ghana and Africa in general. But how can we stop the boats from coming from Africa, people risking their lives when we could build something for them there?
Your name, please.
I'm Dr. Sandra Appiah. I'm an associate professor of biochemistry.
Thank you, Doc. Yes, Prof.
Saeed Akbar, Professor of Accounting and Finance and Dean School of Management. His Majesty, I think the best possible speech that I have heard from a leader in my academic career. So I personally congratulate you for the ideas that you have and the understanding that I can see which can produce an impact on Africa. And one word that I have seen, that you have everything. And I will put an example of that. The fruit that you eat in Africa. And the taste of that fruit is not available anywhere in any part of the world. And this is a fact, by the way. When you buy a fruit in the UK and compare that to what you can see and enjoy in Africa. This is one example. The other example, the production side in Africa, in particular the farming, and the richness of that land. You see, we can't even grow onion and potatoes properly, right? The oranges and any other thing, maybe the apples that you see, is not the ones that we see in Africa. The watermelons that you produce. So think about this. But where is the money going? That's the question. Sure. So the middleman in between is getting everything, and the farmers are poor. And something needs to be done from the leaders over there to transform this. This is a challenge, but I can see an understanding in the leadership. And I have hope that Africa will prosper and will be the first continent to meet the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Thank you.
Last two, and then.
Nanam Pacho Onkwaso, I bow before you, my king. My question that I want to ask is very simple. That how can we bring River Brim back to the state? My name is Nanaya Wasante, OCS Area Manager, West Midlands. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Nana. Thank you. So my name is Ben Tete. I'm the chairman of the Ghanaian community here in Bradford. My question is also simple. Nana, would you please let us know the relationship between the traditional leaders, Ghana as a case of example, traditional leaders in Ghana and the government structure? So I just want to know what interactions you have, how much influence can you bring to bear with our political leaders? Thank you.
And then, Your Majesty, what I would like to ask is that illegal mining, Galamsey, cannot happen under the jurisdiction of any king or chief without their knowledge, which is very, very true, and I do agree with Otumfuo. Your Majesty, what is the traditional authority doing looking at the huge problem that illegal mining, dubbed Galamsey, is causing to our environment? Thank you.
When our great Dr. Kwame Nkrumah came to power, when he told, again, the white folks that we are capable of managing our own affairs. Powerful statement. Went all across Africa. African nations were getting independence. Then when we told the white folks to get out of town, he also said chiefs should leave him alone. And in fact, the popular statement was, chiefs will run and leave their sandals behind. So in 1960, with most of you don't know, the power of ownership of lands and the minerals underneath were taken away from the chiefs. So for instance, if somebody gives somebody a concession, a crowd to come and mine at Okyenhene, Okyenhene has no say. And I'm not making this up. Okyenhene has no say because the concession has come from Accra. And already, you are a landowner, but what's underneath the land is not yours. Minerals are vested in the presidency for the people of Ghana. Yes, it's not making an excuse, but Okyenhene, seeing that, should complain to the DCE that what's going on is not good. It's up to the DCE to take the matter. Because I've seen Okyenhene destroyed beyond what I can think about. Communities should grow, not be destroyed. And when laws are broken everywhere else, law enforcement should take charge. These guys who are doing these things are armed. Yes, there may be a chief here and there who may be a corporate. It got to a point where cocoa farmers are selling their land to Galamseyers. If you're sleeping at night and cocoa farmers negotiate Galamsey to sell their land and go ahead and destroy the land, what does that got to do with the chief? What does that got to do with the chief? And we're all worried that our rivers have been turned into something else. And we've complained, and something has to be done. Second, all that you said has been demanded by the Ghanaian themselves. We have to make sure that the things that you picked up, sure, if you came here 20 years ago, Bradford was not like this. It took individuals to build it up. The brain drain, my dear Doc. If we want our people to stay home, let's keep our houses in order. Let's create opportunities for young people to find work. Nobody has done anything in his life without an opportunity. Some of these guys are wandering around their villages, not doing anything. And so the next opportunity they get is take risk and come here and try to work here to support themselves. If you make your home comfortable, I don't think a lot of people will just be run up here. That's a fact. So we need to do things where we can build a situation back home where people can work. And that's why the Ghana Beyond Aid, as I said, once we do that, it gives us the respect and the dignity to make sure that our people stay home and work. The professor, Sustainable Development Goals. We have said that it's only going to work when the people themselves at the local level own the project and the process. How could you have SDGs talking about trying to help me? Then when you go to talk about it, I'm not part of the negotiations, I'm not part of the discussions, I'm not part of whatever you're doing. It is not dump and run. You can't just come and say, well, I'll bring you development, and I'm dumping this and running. It has to be taking care of the people, and they have to participate. I'll give you an example before on this one. One day I got invited to come and speak to a bunch of African leaders who had been paid by the UN to come and see rural water in Africa, in Ghana, not Africa. So of course, I got ready, I was the chair. And I was invited to come to La Palm. So I was furious. If I look at the thing, they were supposed to come to Africa and see about rural water. First location was wrong. We're in La Palm. They have Baltic water sit on the table, dressed up in suits. They came in air conditioning. So when I got up to speak, I took a bottle out of my cloth and said, ladies and gentlemen, this is what you were supposed to come and see. This water came from Brim. We're here in Accra. And that's what's happening. They took their per diems, they came to Accra, and I went back and gave a report. So I had no control of who's going to come and do this. That's one. You can't talk about sustainable development without speaking with traditional authorities. You cannot let it work without having ownership. When people own things, they take care of it. And then this old baby about, talk about Kwetia, Galam say 2012. Government just made a policy, youth in mining. Great policy, youth in mining. In other words, if you want to get a concession to mine properly, there's nothing wrong with it. But when you get the concession or not, and you mine illegally, you ought to be arrested. Folks, don't even look anywhere. You see, the gold has been held in trust by the president. He has overseen it. So if somebody is stealing and illegally managing, the government agencies should stop it and arrest them. It's a criminal activity. And I say it again and again. We tried to send my people. One time I went to see myself, the people were throwing stones at my car. So it's a whole, you have no idea. And unless you don't know the operations, you will see this place clean today and you go to sleep, young man. By the time you wake up, it's destroyed. And let me just say this here and there. I don't make any defense. Nobody can pay me to watch our rivers tend the way it is. There's no amount of money. I mean, what money? You go and talk to the police, you talk to the CDS, they come and they go. And especially this time, forget it, Prof. Election year? Election year, 3 months to election? But it's all because we have not created enough opportunity for people to work. I hope and pray that we can get River Brim back. I hope and pray that the citizens themselves will know how they are destroying future generations' resource. It's a fact. But when they said to me that, well, the boys need work, I said to them, well, why don't you go sell cocaine? That's work. But if you sell cocaine, you'll be caught. You'll be arrested. So they don't see it. The law enforcement does not see galamsey as an active criminal activity. And mind you, the chiefs don't have any coercive force. They shoot at people. They shoot at people. And I'm not holding brief for every chief. That's not what I'm saying. But it's a tough one. The chief who lives in a rural place like Nanapa in Achim, some concessionaire or galamsey guy goes to him at night. Meanwhile, the chief is broke and gives him 20,000 cedis and show him fake papers from Mineral Commission. Before maybe he can't even read and write. He said, okay. So the guy goes and conducts this illegal activity, and they have the nerve to say that, well, I was granted permission by the chief. I don't care how you look at it. The whole thing is wrong. The whole thing is criminal. And law enforcement should stop it. We believe everybody who's in here as a Ghanaian should understand this. The things we held dear to our hearts at Ghana have been losing value every time. It's not a joke. We need to come back with patriotism. We need that. We need for you to come back home. Not home from the UK to Ghana, but even those who go to Accra should come back home and help their communities. All of us came from rural Ghana. We got our grandparents who sold their clothes on their back to put us in school. The teacher who taught you how to match your subject with your verb, they are still there. The classrooms that you went and studied, the roof is caved in. And you in Accra, you've never brought back a cent to build your community. This community was built by the people who live here. So it's easy for people to criticize. But you need to go do something that future generations will remember you by. You left maybe Chebi and you had no vehicle. Now, by grace of God, you go to Accra, you become very powerful, you have money, you have Land Cruisers. And the only thing you can do is say, we need to come, we need to have community commitment to build our neighborhoods. So that's what I can tell you on these questions. We have people who are knowledgeable. Ghanaians everywhere can compete. Ghanaians everywhere can go to any university in the world and compete. The gem is here. So how come they have no opportunity to come back home? If we create the opportunity, working conditions, I think we'll be fine. And all of us I should be on this. I have asked the question repeatedly in Ghana. You probably heard me. I can't understand why in 67 years we haven't built a superhighway from Accra to Kumasi. It's not the white folks' fault. your number one city, number two city. Was I coming here, I look at the landscape, I look at, my goodness. And in 67 years, all of us have not been able to build a superhighway between Accra and Kumasi. And in case you don't know, we have no budget. Nobody pays us. Or that should be clear. Nobody pays us. I don't care about every money and get the money from my accountant general. Nobody pays me for my hospital bills. So I said that none were there and they have all these monies and they don't want to use it for, all of us have to come back home. In fact, the theme for me the last 5 years has been, come back home. The grandmother who's sitting in the village, maybe in a dark room, with eyes partially blind, with no teeth. Arthritis affecting her bodies all along. Come on, and tell her that, Grandma, I love you. She fed you, she clothed you, she loved you. Come back home. Amen. We don't even go home and we don't even go back and support our universities. We went to Legon and Tech. Ask anybody who said that, what have you contributed to that university? Over here in Bradford, without even knowing, I know alma mater, I know the people, alumni came here. They bring money back to the school, which helped them get where they are. So that's my answer. We are democracy. Centrality of governance is outdated. I don't see why schools in Chebi should be controlled by somebody in Accra. Right here, Bradford community has their own control of their schools. It's not coming from London. Somebody sits in Accra and controls schools in Chebi, and the teacher takes the people to class, and 45 students fail, and still he has a job because central government doesn't even know that he has failed the students. If it's right here, you don't get a job next month. So my problem in Ghana is centrality of governance should stop and decentralize and place educational facilities in the hands of the people who live in the localities. When you do that, you see a difference. Did I answer everybody's question? Drain. Oh, GCD. Favorite GCD. Well, it's a hold because the people who want to come and take it are foreign companies. They now want to come and take it. And I can tell you that one day, I am waiting for some indigenous Ghanaian with money to own it. Our problem in Ghana is we don't own our land. We don't own our industry. We need to have Ghanaians. You guys should put some money together and come and take this idea.